the strategy of how to price your artwork will take you from the very beginning, your first art sale, all the way through to the end of your art career. So at the beginning, the key here is to set your prices based on your sales history, and if this is your first sale, that's okay, and also based on your reputation. So you're going to want to start out with prices that match your reputation and your sales history. So you can compare with artists that are local to your area, and also you'll want to compare with artists that are doing the same kind of medium as you. So if you're a watercolor artist, compare with local artists that are also watercolor artists. If you do acrylic and oil, those are kind of comparable. Compare with them. If you're doing sculpture, compare with other sculptors in the same type of. If you do clay, compare with other artists that are also working in clay. But what you want to do is also look at their reputation and their sales history. So if you are a new artist, you're going to want to be comparing with other emerging new artists. You don't want to compare yourself against someone who has a strong sales history. Try and set your prices compared and do it based on how big something is, how large something is. So small paintings, you'll want to compare with other local artists doing similar work that's like yours, that is also small with a similar kind of reputation. Or big paintings. If you're making big paintings, compare with their big work in order to set your initial prices. It is always better to start too low than to start too high, because when you start low and you start having a sales record, then you can build up, over time. Also, be sure to make your work in a variety of sizes. So the reason you want to do a variety of sizes is because art collectors, sometimes they might be looking for something small and a little, there's a little spot in their home or their office they're trying to fill. Other times they might have, a place over the sofa, or a big wall that they're trying to fill. And so if you offer sizes that are comfortable for you, and everybody will have that idea. Like some artists, this might be small, that's medium, and then this might be large. And other artists, this might be small, that might be medium, and then something gigantic is their large. But if you offer, say, at least 3 different sizes, then what you can do is you can have a variety of prices, different price points. So the small pieces would be less expensive, the medium would be your medium expensive, and then your biggest would be your most expensive works. And then so you can offer different sizes and different price points. And that is a strategy for being able to be that you'll make more sales if you have a variety of sizes and also a variety of price points. And the other key here too is that when you're setting your price, be sure to allow for the things like shipping. If you need to ship it somewhere or send it somewhere and you're including free shipping, or you're shipping to a gallery or an exhibition, include that in your price. Your cost of your materials, make sure you've factored all of that in. And then also your time. Make sure that you're allowing and giving yourself, some compensation for the artwork itself. And I have a friend, an art friend, who actually this was just horrific for her. She realized that she had been pricing her work and actually losing on every piece that was sold when she figured out her art materials and, all the other things that she was doing. So she ended up like, okay, why am I literally losing money on every sale I make? That doesn't make any sense. So she restructured her prices so that she would be making, a little bit of profit and then also covering all of her costs. So you want to be sure, make sure you have low enough prices, but don't have them so low that you're actually either losing money or not making, hardly any money at all. You want to have a happy medium. And then over time, as you're making sales, slowly you're going to be raising up your prices. And kind of something that I do is I will only raise prices when I can't keep up with the demand. And so that's kind of a sweet spot, is you'll realize like, okay, hey, at this time and at this point in my career, I'm able to make work and sell it. But if you raise your prices up all of a sudden too high, then the art galleries that are representing you, or the people, the collectors that have been buying your work, they'll all of a sudden be like, oh, I can't afford this anymore. or I don't want this artist anymore. And then all of a sudden you're stuck because you've got your prices up here and nothing is being sold. So the key is move very slowly over time and raise those prices up over time, but don't ever lower your prices, because kind of the kiss of death is to all of a sudden lower prices. There's nothing that annoys people more than if they bought your artwork. Let's say they paid $1,000 for a painting, and then a certain size, and they go look on some website or on your website, and they go and they look and see, like, oh, that size is now $500 or $800. Well, what happened? So what you want to do is be able to show value to your customers, to your galleries, to everybody who's buying your work, that over time, what they bought years ago is going to be going up in value. So this third habit also deals with the business side, and it is knowing where to show your work. So the first question that you should ask yourself is, how do I feel about a stranger coming and seeing my artwork? Do I feel comfortable with that, or I do not feel comfortable with that? And that answer, and everybody will have their own response, and there's no right or wrong answer, but however you answer that will dictate whether it's better for you to have somebody else sell your artwork or whether it's better for you to sell directly. So if you're like me, you would prefer to have somebody else sell the artwork. So then you would be kind of like what I do, where I sell my artwork directly through art galleries. There are other ways to have somebody else sell your work, like through an art co-op or a group art show, something like that. But that answer will actually dictate what the best route is for you, and it's a very personal thing. So the pro of having something like an art gallery sell your artwork is that it frees you up so that you can just make the artwork, and then they take care of the marketing, they take care of the lighting, they take care of sales and shipping and credit card and checks, however the customer wants to pay. They set up this absolutely beautiful environment to show your artwork, and they have professional sales staff. But the negative of that, or the downside of that, is that you're going to have to give up some money in order to do that. The art gallery will take typically anywhere from 35% up to 60-65% of the sale, and a pretty normal amount, or pretty typical, is 50% of that sale. So that's just something to keep in mind, is if you're going to have somebody else sell it, you need to pay for their time, for their rent of the space, for their sales expertise, and that type of thing. So just to give an example, let's say that you have a painting that is going to be selling in a gallery space for, say, $200. And if it's a 50-50 split, then when the painting sells, then the gallery would get $100 and you would get $100. In the same way that if it's a $5,000 painting, and if it sells with a 50-50 split, then you would get $2,500 and they would get $2,500 when the artwork sells. Now, if you're going to be selling direct, then the benefit of that is that you would get to keep really all that money. So in the first example of $200, or the second example of a $5,000 work of art, you would be able to keep all or most of all of that amount of money. And then you'd have, if you were to sell, for example, at an art festival, then you might have booth fees or an entrance fee or something like that you would need to give to the organizers. But you'd basically get to keep a lot of that, the majority or most of what that sale is. And that's because you not only were the artist, but you also were the salesperson, and you were responsible for the display and the sales and the sales transaction and that type of thing. And you can also choose to sell your artwork through your art website. Now, I personally, because I'm dealing with a gallery, I do not make any sales of my originals to individual people. I have all the galleries take care of all of that for me, but I do sell prints. So if you go to my website, DenaTollefson.com, you can see that I'm selling prints. And I also do art licensing, so I have merchandise that sells of my works, but just the originals, the one original painting, that the unique painting, those are sold through the art gallery. Now, you can sell your artwork through art galleries like I do, but you can also there's lots of other things. And I've got a really great video that if you haven't already seen it, you may want to take a look at that after this video. But it's all about sales venues or ways to sell your art. So you could do like Redbubble, you could do Etsy, you could do Instagram, you could do Saatchi Art or other online art galleries. You could do art licensing, which is kind of its whole other thing. That's not dealing with originals. That's dealing with basically the image of your work. But that's another way to make money as an artist. That's kind of a side issue. But that's another thing to look into. But other things that you can do would be like farmers markets. You could do sales through a restaurant. If your local library has your work on exhibit, or local hospital, oftentimes they have a thing where the public can buy, directly from the artist, and then that venue might get a portion of the sale. So like hospital, they might take, maybe 10%, 15% of the sale, and then you get the rest. So there are lots of these great ways that you can look into lots of different venues. It doesn't have to just be a direct sale where you're selling to somebody, or a sale through an art gallery. There's all these other venues and all these other opportunities that you can get your work out there and you can make sales. And then here's kind of a caution or a don't. The one thing that you absolutely never want to do, what is the kiss of death, if you are represented by an art gallery, is you never, ever, ever, never want to make direct sales. But once you're in an art gallery, don't make direct sales to people like through a website or just really any way. Because what that does is that undercuts your gallery. So they are, like we talked about a little bit about before, is they invest a lot of their own time and money. They've got sales staff, they've got a building, they've got lighting, they have insurance, they take care of your shipping, they do all these things. But if you were to, like, let's say someone were to reach out to you, a client saw your work in an art gallery, they reach out to you personally and they say, hey, can I get that painting or a different painting from you? And what they're doing is that person, it's unethical. It's unethical for you, and it's unethical for the buyer to reach out and try and get something cheaper than what they could get in the gallery. They're hoping that, because they know that you've got a commission relationship with the gallery, and so they're going to be like, oh, can I get this for, could you sell it to me at a discount, or would you sell it to me directly? And then they're thinking it's going to be cheaper than what they would get at the gallery. And what that does is that undermines your relationship with the gallery. You never want to do that. The gallery or the sales venue that you're working with is your partner. And so you want to show them respect, just like you'd want them to respect you. So that's just a little tip, is if you're making sales on your own, that's no problem. But once you're, working with a gallery, absolutely don't make direct sales, because that will undermine your gallery artist relationship.